I never believed anything truly frightening could happen on a train. It always felt like one of the safest places you could be. Public, predictable, moving along fixed tracks toward a known destination. That belief didn't survive the night of February 14th, 2018. I was traveling alone from a small town in northern Europe to the capital after visiting my parents. The trip was supposed to last just over 4 hours, mostly cutting through forests, frozen fields, and long stretches of nothing. Because it was winter, night fell early. By the time I boarded the train at 6:40 p.m., darkness had already swallowed the landscape. The carriage was nearly empty. There were maybe 6 or 7 other passengers spread across the entire car. A middle-aged couple near the front, a man in a business coat asleep by the window, a woman with headphones staring at her phone. Nothing unusual. I took a seat halfway down the carriage, placed my backpack beside me, and settled in. For the first hour, everything was normal. The hum of the train, the rhythmic clatter of wheels on rails, dim overhead lights flickering slightly as we passed through rural stations that barely deserved the name. Just a platform, a sign, and darkness beyond. Then, at a stop that wasn't on the schedule, everything changed. The train slowed unexpectedly, eventually coming to a full stop in the middle of nowhere. No platform, no lights outside, just snow-covered trees and darkness stretching endlessly beyond the windows. At first, no one reacted. Trains stop sometimes, signals, delays, technical issues. But then the lights dimmed. Not completely off, just low enough that the carriage felt wrong. Shadows deepened. Reflections in the windows became more pronounced than what lay outside. A minute passed, then 2. No announcement came. That's when the doors between the carriages opened. I assumed someone was walking through, maybe a conductor, but the figure that stepped inside didn't move like one. He was tall, thin, wearing a dark hooded jacket pulled so low that I couldn't see his face at first. His hands were in his pockets. He didn't look around, didn't acknowledge anyone. He just stood there, still. For several seconds, nobody moved, nobody spoke. It felt as if the entire carriage was holding its breath. Then he began to walk, slowly. Not down the aisle, but toward the back of the carriage, stopping at each row, pausing, lingering, turning his head just enough to suggest he was looking at the passengers, even though his face remained hidden in shadow. I tried to convince myself I was overreacting. People are strange. Late-night trains attract all kinds. But something felt fundamentally wrong. When he reached my row, he stopped. I could see his face now, or at least part of it. His eyes were open wide, unnaturally wide, and they were red, not bloodshot, glowing. At first, I thought it was a trick of the lighting, reflection from something behind him. But as he leaned slightly closer, the red didn't shift, didn't fade. It stayed fixed, staring directly at me. He said nothing. I felt frozen, my hands gripping the armrests, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. After several seconds, he moved on. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. But the relief didn't last. Because when he reached the last row, instead of exiting into the next carriage, he stopped again and turned around. The train jolted back into motion,
Lights flickered brighter for a moment, then stabilized. The sudden movement broke the paralysis gripping the passengers. People shifted in their seats. The couple near the front whispered to each other. Someone nervously laughed. The hooded man began walking back down the aisle. This time, slower. When he reached the sleeping businessman, he stopped. The man didn't wake up. The hooded figure leaned down close to his face, far closer than was comfortable. I expected the businessman to stir, to react, but he didn't move at all. After a long moment, the figure straightened up and continued. When he reached the woman with headphones, she noticed him and flinched. She pulled one ear cup off and asked, "Can I help you?" He didn't respond. Instead, he tilted his head, sharply, unnaturally, like something mimicking a human gesture without understanding it. She frowned, visibly uncomfortable, and turned away. Then he reached me again. This time he spoke, in a low, dry voice that sounded unused. "You shouldn't be here." That was all. Before I could respond, before I could even process what he'd said, he turned and walked through the doors into the next carriage. The doors slid shut behind him. Almost immediately, the lights flickered again. A voice finally came over the intercom, distorted and crackling. "We apologize for the delay. Please remain seated." I didn't relax. Something told me that was a lie. 2 stations later, the businessman still hadn't moved.
A conductor finally entered the carriage, checking tickets. When he reached the sleeping man, he paused. He tried to wake him. Nothing. The conductor's expression changed. Emergency lights were activated. The train slowed again. Paramedics boarded at the next station. They pronounced the man dead on the spot. "Heart failure," they said. But here's the part that still haunts me. As they lifted his body, his eyes were open, wide, and faintly red. The police questioned everyone, asked about suspicious behavior. I told them about the hooded man. They exchanged looks. One officer quietly told me no one matching that description was on the passenger manifest. No CCTV footage showed anyone walking through the carriage during the delay. No one else remembered him clearly. Some said they thought they'd seen someone. Others weren't sure. As for me, I stopped taking late trains after that. And to this day, whenever I see my reflection in a dark window at night, I swear for just a second, my eyes look red.